My name is, in the Lakota language, Maka means Mother Earth or the Earth, and the full phrase Maka Kanaji means to stand on the earth. I was born here in Pine Ridge, but grew up just about a half an hour away in Manderson, South Dakota. I didn't come to Red Cloud School until I was in high school. My previous education was all in sort of the community or reservation school system. So my first experience here at Red Cloud was as a high school student, and it was actually very transformational for me. One, to be part of an institution that is purposely multi-faith, which is very interesting and I think sits at the crossroads of a really important conversation for the Indigenous community. Red Cloud School, I think, means to me an opportunity and also a challenge. It's an opportunity because here on this reservation, right, we know about all of the challenges that persist and all the ways in which this community resists those challenges, but also can succumb to them. And here, I think we try to establish that education is one of the most effective ways in which we can resist that and overcome. It was never a question that I wouldn't return home. I think that was always something that in my own family, my parents always stressed to me. My mother would often say to me, even while I was in high school, that the goal is to, yes, go and get an education and come back successfully, right? Come back having succeeded. But to always come back, right? That we'd have a place to come back to, that our land is here, that our community and our culture and the blood of our people really runs through the veins of this place. And I think that's, it was never a question that I wouldn't come back. What makes Red Cloud fascinatingly unique is that we do a lot more with very little. We get most of our operational dollars through fundraising from donors across the country and across the world. We are certainly not as resource rich as some of the other schools on the reservation. Some of our competitor schools, really not our partner schools, I should say. Some of our partner schools across the reservation are publicly funded or federally funded. So it's very common practice in very rural institutions, for example, to provide teacher housing. We don't have that, right? We don't have a whole lot of teacher housing. We certainly don't pay a competitive rate. Our teachers typically make 10 to 15K less than their public school counterparts, but people come here because they want to be here. They work here because they recognize the culture that exists here that allows us to do so much with so little resources. And I think that's what makes Red Cloud a really challenging, fun, and incredibly empowering work environment. I think one of the really challenging and ongoing detriments of the colonial process has been that Indigenous people have been confined to some sort of historic or some sort of particular way of being. And it exists in this sort of binary between, like, this is what it means to be Lakota and this is what it means to not be Lakota, or to be colonized or Americanized, whatever that might be. And that binary can really create a trap for Indigenous people to feel isolated, to feel like education isn't something that's achievable or attainable for them. It's very clear from our history that the Red Cloud School, as it was formerly known as Holy Rosary Mission, was, like a lot of mission schools, engaging in practices that were dehumanizing to the community here. And that impact is still felt in different ways. The historical trauma lasts long into the community. And so it's really important that we open the door to acknowledging that. When you look at the history of how Indigenous peoples, especially the Great Plains, how that colonization process happened, there's these moments of really interesting cultural exchange that happened early on at the very beginning of Lakota people engaging with settlers. And in those early days, before the flood of migrants coming over to the California Gold Rush or to across the Oregon Trail, right? Those early interactions, it was one of cultural exchange. And the first Jesuits who came to the region learned how to speak the language fluently, translated the Bible into the Dakota language, built over years relationships with people that there was a trust and a sort of mutual respect, and a sharing of those two different people's cultures and customs and spirituality. Um, that spirit eventually was overcome by, I think, the what we know to be the broad genocidal project, right? Um, I think we are engaged in this idea that the spirit that began there, that may have been stymied as the years went by, that's a spirit that we want to reignite. And I think that's an important part of our conversation, that we knew that there was a way. We knew that there was a moment when a positive relationship was possible, and that was even living. And it's central to the story of why Red Cloud exists today. We have a lot of work to do. The reservation has a lot of growth to do when it comes to educational achievement, getting our students out there in the world to get the skills that they need so that they can come back to this community and utilize those skills in ways that are meaningful. This coming year, I'll be transitioning out of being director of curriculum and moving toward being the sort of coordinator and leader for a truth and reconciliation process that's going to allow this institution to reckon with its past, to engage the community in reckoning with that past, and moving to a place where we can understand that as a community, where we can engage in opportunities to heal the wounds that are still there and still bleeding, and then to, I think, transcend toward, I think, a more clear future.